Hi friends, Kaylee with Kaylee's Canvases here. I am here today with Regan and we're getting ready for the Super Bowl, okay? And I don't know if any of you guys know, but this year at the halftime show, we well, not just we, but everybody's going to be watching Eminem along with some other popular favorites on stage. So I thought it would be fun and appropriate to paint Eminem. Alright, so we have M and M, and we are going to paint them as we see fit, just kind of a fun play on words. So if you are here and want to paint along, feel free to save this video. You can go back, you can watch our tips and techniques on this. Alright, but pretty much in essence, all I did to get this drawn on here was I just printed a picture of an M&M and I traced it onto here. You can do that with graphite paper, or you can do it just by tracing the back of this with pencil and retracing it on there while it's on your canvas, and that will give you an outline here. Or you can just freehand it, whatever works best for you. Regan wanted to do the girl M&M, and then I've got the red M&M. The girl M&M is normally green, but Regan wants to make her pink.
I want to do like a Valentine's M&M.
Oh, that works too, because Valentine's Day is super close. All right. So she's going to do a pink one. I'm going to do it red because that's the way he normally is. But get creative, do whatever you want. I don't know which M&M is your favorite. The red, the green, the yellow, or maybe your favorite one is the wrapper. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're going to start painting. There's no real right or wrong to this. I've got a flat brush, a fine liner brush, and I'm just going to take some white and some black and kind of mix it together. I want more white than I do black. I'm just going to go in with kind of like a messy background like I do on a lot of my paintings, just because it's so easy. Alright, so I'm just going to go in. I dabbed a little bit of black throughout this, and I'm just going to go in with my flat brush and add a whole bunch of white. And this will just help me to make that messy gray background. That way my red M&M really stands out. What color background are you going to do, Regan?
I'm going to do like a mixture, like, so the white is on the outside over here, and then the red is blending with the white.
Okay. And like I said, you guys can do any color background. There's no right or wrong. I'm going to go right up to the pencil marks that I have. And if I don't like this background, the nice thing is I can just paint over it. So we are just going to get painting. If you are watching this, and like I said, if you want to paint it, save this video for later. You can paint this later if you're not prepared now. But yeah, and also I would love it if you could like and subscribe, or like and follow, whatever, depending on which form of media you're on, whether it's Facebook or YouTube. It would be greatly appreciated. That way I can always bring you new stuff. Let me know what you want to see painted in the future. And also, actually, if you are watching this, comment and tell me who you're most excited to see at the Super Bowl halftime show. I know there's going to be quite a few different artists, and I feel like it's like a blast from the past, like the late 90s going on there with, Eminem and Mary J. Blige and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. I mean, tons of like really popular things from when I was a teenager. Alright, so I'm just going to go around the part that I drew just to get, if I go over a little bit of the lines, that's okay. Just try to keep a general idea of where these lines are, because your drawing might be slightly different from mine. If I wanted to, like, actually now that I'm thinking about it, it would have been cool to do like maybe like a gray background with like some yellow shining down, making it look like he's on stage or something in a spotlight. That would have been cool. There's a lot of cool things that could have been done. And you guys know me, I always get the sides of my canvas. Oh, sorry, Regan. We can move these over a little bit if you want, so that way it's easier to paint. I just had them in the middle in the beginning. So, because I'm just doing white and black for the background, because the M&M, my M&M is red, so he'll stand out. If I do like anything different, it might not, any other colors might not look good except for yellow. So I'm trying to stay with kind of a neutral background color, just to be mindful of the color that I'm painting this M&M. But like I said, I'm kind of doing more white than I am black. And that's just because black is such a powerful color that if I do too much black, the whole thing will be black, and then I won't be able to like see his eyebrows because his eyebrows are black. You know, so I want to make sure I can see all parts of him. I don't want to be too light because his gloves are white, his hands, and even like his shoe here is white. So I want to make sure that it's enough color, darkness in here, light and darkness, that I can see all of the details in the end. So just keep that in mind depending on what color you make your M&M.
Since I had hearts like right here, I'm gonna do them gold now.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The red is like...
Oh, actually gold would have been a nice background color. But that's okay. I think gold hearts would be really cool. Alright, so I'm really getting some messiness going on here. Maybe want a little bit more black around his gloves, just so that way his gloves stand out. Mix in some white to make it gray and not just straight black. Alright, his arms right here and his legs are going to be like a tan color. And that will stand out just fine. So it doesn't matter if I don't make it super dark, but I want to make sure he stands out good. Let's see. Alright, I think I've got pretty good color. Let me make sure I got my edges good. Alright, I'm going to rinse off my brush. This really isn't going to take super long because there's not a lot of colors to this. This is like mostly like a flat color for him. He's just going to be some straight red. I will add some highlights to him to make him a little bit more realistic, and we do have some detail going on in here, but we'll get to that as we go through it. So the next step I want to do is I'm going to do his red part. So I'm just going to go in, I rinsed off my brush real good, and I'm just taking my red. I'm going to have to use a combination of my fine liner and my flat brush because there's some small grooves in here. So I just want to be careful where I'm going with this. Alright, so, but if I do cover up certain parts, that's okay. I can always repaint them. So I'm just going around, trying to go slowly and smoothly. Alright, his eyelids are red also, but in kind of like a muted kind of way with like a shadow around them. So we'll kind of change the color just slightly for his eyebrows, or I mean his eyelids. Alright, so I'm going to go around it for now with just a plain red color. Being very careful. If you need to use a fine liner brush as you're going around, don't be afraid to change your brush. like that color that you are doing her in. Alright, so I'm just going around. This red is a bright color too, so I'm just being kind of careful as I go around the M, because, I mean, the white will probably cover it up, but I don't want to have to cover up too much. But I also don't want to be too far away. I definitely want to make sure I come up really close to the line with this M. So just take your time. Don't be afraid to switch brushes if you need to. Alright. This is definitely probably one of the most tedious part of it, is just getting around these lines. Once you get through this part, adding the other details isn't going to take too long. So don't stress out over this part. Just take your time and relax. Okay, I'm kind of painting over his mouth a little bit, but I can still see my graphite line through there. You might not be able to see it on the camera, but if you're painting, you'll probably be able to see it still. But if you're afraid you can't, you can always paint around it. Alright. I'm just going to go up for his lips, because he's got a little bit of black space here, but he's kind of got some three-dimensionalness going on with his lips. So I am going to come up pretty close with this, and even though I'm covering up lines, you might not be able to see it on the camera, but I can see it on my end. I can still see the lines of his lips. And if I can't, I can always just reference the picture to find them later on. Okay. Still working my way around him. You alright, Regan? Okay, getting close to filling in these gaps here. And then I'll take you and we'll do his eyelids and his lips. And then we'll fill in some other things in a minute after that. I'm coming up right to the edge of that pencil mark. I'm going really slow around some of these details, so I encourage you to do the same and take your time. Like I said, if you need to use your fine liner brush for this step, that is absolutely fine. Okay, getting close to finishing this red. If you need to turn your canvas, feel free to turn your canvas. We are so quiet right now because we are so focused. Ooh, Regan, I like the lips. Okay, so I finished the outline of, or the body, the shell, whatever you want to call it, of my M&M. And next what I'm going to do, I am going to do the eyelids, but his eyelids are kind of, they've kind of got like a darker shade around the edges, so I'm going to fill in the middle with just that plain red color. Alright, and you don't have to do this. If you want to just paint this, you know, flat red color and then just outline his eyes with black, that is absolutely fine. I just happen to like making things look a little bit more 3D, okay, with some depth to it. So I am going to, I did his eyelids like this, and then I'm going to mix a little bit of red and black, just the ever slightest hint of black on my plate. I'll show you guys right now. So I'm going to take a tiny little bit of black, super small, okay, and I'm just going to blend in some red until I'm happy with like a dark red. Not super dark, just enough to see where there might be a difference. And actually I think I just mixed in with some pink from an earlier painting, so I might need to do it off to the side. Okay. It's almost going to look like kind of like a dark, like a maroon or a brown, like a reddish brown color. That's what we want to go for. We want to go for that dark, like that dark red maroon kind of color. Okay. I'm kind of lifting some of the paint off my brush. I don't want my brush to be super loaded with paint. I'm just going to take a little bit so I can work around the edges. You can do this with a fine liner brush or your flat brush, if depending on how much control you have over your brush. Okay. If you have a hard time gaining control over a flat brush doing these small details, then definitely feel free to switch to a fine liner brush. Okay, and I'm just going around to get those darker shadows around his eyes, and I'll go in to soften them in just a little bit. I'm just getting those dark shadows in. And I might even switch over my flat brush in a minute. Maybe, we'll see. Okay. So now you can see I've got kind of like a darker shadow around the edges of his eyelids, and this is going to add to that 3D look. Okay, I'm going to rinse off my brush, and actually I'll go in with my fine liner with just a solid red, okay, and I'm just going to mix it in just a little bit, just to kind of blend it a little bit more, just around the edges where the shadow was. Alright, and this is just going to almost give it like that 3D look. Alright, because it wasn't a super dark red, just enough to make it look like some shadowing. And we'll add some highlight to this in a little bit too, to make it stand out even more. Alright, now for his lips, we're going to go in with that fine liner brush and that maroon color, and we're going to outline where the edge of his lip is to kind of give it like that little bit of a 3D look. Alright, and we'll do that along the top edge of his lip. All right, and you can add whatever kind of shading or highlights that you think this needs. I'm going to go in with some more red here. That might have been too much, but we'll see. I don't want to completely wash out that dark shadow that I had. I'm just trying to soften the in-between lines a little. And when it dries, it should look a little more smooth. All right. Can even add in a little more red around his lips. Help blend that in a little bit. And we don't want to forget about his upper lip. I know, I'm getting a little detailed, aren't I, Regan? Oh my goodness, look at you even put little blood vessels in her eyes. All right. So now there is a couple different routes we could go. We can add in the tan. Next we could add in the tan for the legs, which I'm going to go grab tan. I forgot to grab it. And I'm going to put the tan on his legs and his arms. So over here, just going to go in with this tan and I'll bring it up. I don't want to overlap too much on the red because his shell is going to definitely, we want his shell to be smooth because M&Ms are very smooth.
Shell?
Yeah, the candy shell around the chocolate.
Oh.
Okay, and so there was a line kind of separating part of his arm, which we'll add back in a second. Let me just get in all this tan. All right, and what I'm going to do on my plate, I'm just going to mix a little bit of, teeny little bit of black with some tan, just to make a little bit of a shadow, almost like a gray color. All right, and I'm just going to go in with that right here. I don't need a lot. We'll add some black highlight to that after to kind of separate that a little. All right, and then I'm going to go back in to his other arm and his legs, and I'm going to add some more tan. All right, I'm just following the lines that I had here that I had drawn on. And now his legs. He does have a little bit of his boot showing in the picture that I drew. I could either go all the way down with the tan or I could do his boot too. Either one is fine. If you don't feel confident doing the boot, you don't have to. I'm not going to get super complex with the boot because that's not really the focal point of this painting. But I will still paint it. All right, and we will go around some of these lines also.
Heels.
Oh, you gave her high heels?
Yeah,
oh.
On the side.
Oh, she took her shoes off.
Yeah.
She is looking like she's ready to party. All right, and almost done with this tan. Okay. Alright, so I've got his legs. Next, I can do the whites of his eyes and his gloves. Alright, I'm going to have a little much paint on my brush for the whites of his eyes. So I'm going to start off with the gloves. We'll add some shadows to this in a little bit. Just come right up to the lines that were drawn. And we will, you know, I'm just painting a thin layer so I can still see his thumb where it is. Because this is white on white, we don't need to get like a super thick amount of white paint on here. We just need enough to make sure we get rid of any of those, any little imperfections. Let's see, let's do his other eye. Alright, because the canvas is already white, we don't have to be super thick with this paint. We just want to make sure we cover it. Canvases are almost like not a pure white, so that's why I like to put white on top of it. Don't forget the inside of his eyes. Don't ask me why the inside of his eyes are white. Don't know. That's just how it is in the picture. Alright, and we'll get the M. Alright, so just coming up to the lines that I had. Now for this, you want sharp lines because you want to make it look like this is like a real M&M. Right, we don't want it to be too many rounded edges unless it's actually rounded in the M. So when you do this, take your time. If you need to thin out your paint a little to make sure that you get good coverage and it doesn't get chunky. Different paints have different textures to it. So for this, you might not want your paint to be super thick. You might need to add some water and thin it down. All right. I had overlapped a little with the red over on this side, so I'm just making sure I cover that up so it doesn't show through. And I'm covering up any pencil lines I didn't quite get. And just smoothing out these edges so it looks a little bit more accurate. Okay. I think Regan's pretty much done. Regan, what more do you have left to do to yours? I know I got a little detailed, didn't I?
I'm finished.
You're doing a great job. Well, if you're finished, you don't have to stay and paint with me anymore if you don't want to. You can say hi to everybody or bye or whatever. Or you can stay for the end. It doesn't matter.
I have to sign my name.
Oh, true. Yeah, you can't forget to sign your name. Alright, so now I'm painting his shoe white. And in the picture, there was just a little bit of like white shoe showing down here. So I'm just going to paint that. You guys can't see, but his shoe's kind of like on the base of the painting. Okay, and now I just have one glove left to do. I did the M, I did his eyes, I did his gloves and shoes. This is the last glove. And then we'll add in some details around that. Remember, if you paint over the lines with the white, make sure it's thin enough that you can see the details from the pencil. You don't need a lot, you're just kind of smoothing this out and getting smoothing out the edges and getting some that nice bright white on here. Okay, I can still see my lines. I don't know if you guys can see them, but I can see them. Okay. So, what I'm going to do next, let's see. I think I'm going to do his eyebrows next. And the pupils of his eye. So I'm going to go in with my black paint. And I'm just going, oops, I got my finger in white. Careful not to dip your fingers in wet paint. I do this all the time. Alright, so up here for his eyebrows, I'm just going to fill in the outline for his eyebrows. They're not really attached to his head, so I'm just being careful to just make a smooth line. Okay.
How much more do you have to do?
A little. Probably like another 5 minutes or so. 5 to 10 minutes. Alright, this guy definitely, I think he's checking her out. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they look like they're going to go out on a date for Valentine's Day.
Or they're going to get tickets for the Super Bowl.
Ooh, that could be too. Maybe this M&M is going to sing, and that one's going to be like the backup dancer because she's got her shoes off.
She has a drum, a party hat, and then her guitar keys to drive to the Super Bowl. She's going to be wearing high heels.
Oh, nice. So now that I'm starting to get some of these darker details in here, careful Reagan, this M&M doesn't look quite as creepy as he did before. He definitely looked creepy. But now he's starting to look more like an M&M. Okay. And I'm going to get in his mouth too. Right, his tongue is also red, but that's kind of a dark red, so we'll fill that in a minute. I don't know why I missed that part. Alright, if you need to turn your canvas sideways to make it easier to paint, don't hesitate, just don't dip your hand in paint. Ooh, he's really starting to look good now. Okay, so I think I'm going to do his tongue next. Alright, so I'm going to get some of that dark red color. Maybe add just a tiny bit more black just because it's inside his mouth, so there's going to be a little bit more of a shadow. Okay, and I'm going to get that in there. Oh, that's really dark. Might have made that too dark. Okay. So I've got his tongue there. What am I going to do next? I will add some gray shadows around the hands of the gloves. Alright, so for this I'm just going to create a light gray, a really light gray. I don't want it to be dark. Alright, so I'm just going to mix a little light gray. Oops, that was black. Okay. Hi, Regan.
Hi.
Please leave the cat alone. I don't want him coming up on the table. Alright, let's see, let's get in some shadows. So I've got a really light gray here on my canvas. I gotta be careful not to dip my hand in the wet paint. And I'm just gonna kind of go around where there was some of those shadows. And just really softly, I'm just, you know, where his hand would be, I'm just gonna add in some of those shadows. And we'll add in some more black in a little bit to separate his fingers and stuff. Alright, so we've got some shadow here, maybe around the base of his wrist, and the back of his hand. Right, we'll even do that on his other hand. Alright, think about where shadows would be. I don't want to do too much at the top because most shadows are underneath. It all depends on where the light is hitting. My brush is kind of dry, so it's kind of giving like a softer gray, which is what I kind of want. Alright, so I'm going to go around on his boot as well. I know you guys can't really see that down here, but that's okay. Alright, I don't want to add any gray to this really because I want the M to really stand out nice and bold. And I'm not going to add any gray to his eye either. Alright, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to use just solid black. Hi again. I'm going to use solid black and I'm going to trace in some details to separate things. So here I'm going to, with very little pressure, if you need to make sure your brush is damp so you can get a really fine line, that would be good. Alright, so I'm just going to go in. You want this line to be very fine, okay? So make sure your brush is damp, not dripping wet. Because if it's dripping wet, it's just going to make a mess. Alright, you don't need to outline the whole entire thing, just the basis of it to get an idea of where all the parts are. And to separate the fingers and stuff. Alright, and I'll go around on this arm too. Alright, separating that little spot in his arm. Alright, I will do that around the lower part of his body, not much. Alright, just a little bit, just to separate part of him. And I could go in with even more detail if I wanted to. Like if I wanted to add more shadows in on the bottom part of him, I could. I'm not going to because this is just supposed to be a quick fun little video. And I've probably already given too many details. But that's okay. You can go, like I said before, you can get as detailed as you want to. Alright, so as you can see, like now that I'm adding the black outline, it's kind of like separating him from the background. He's starting to stand out. He's not looking so flat. Starting to look like a real boy.
I'm gonna stand.
Okay. I know sometimes it's hard to sit on these stools. Okay. I'm just getting the shoe under here. Alright, I'm not going to outline the M because the M is not outlined. Alright, I will maybe do a little tiny outline around his eyelid just to separate the pieces a little. Okay, not a lot, just a little. Maybe even around the edge of his eye, just slightly. Whatever you're comfortable with. And remember, the thinner the line you want it to be, make sure your brush is damp and apply very little pressure. I'm getting close to being done. Okay, maybe a little bit under his lip. Oh, Regan, are you bored?
No, I'm just tired.
Alright, I get a little bitty line in here. Alright, and now I'll go on to kind of like the last part of whatever we would outline, and that would be his other arm. We'll add some highlights in a sec. Right, just adding in that outline to differentiate the parts of his glove and his fingers. I'm applying very little pressure. I need more. My brush is getting dry, so I need some more water in my brush and my paint.
What else do you have to do?
I'm just, after this, I'm just going to add some highlights and sign my name. Yay! Okay, so next I will add the highlights. So for anything good, if you put in some shadows, you got to put in some highlights. We don't need a lot. So I'm just going to use a little bit of white, maybe thin it out just a little bit with a little bit of water so that way it's not super thick and heavy. And I'm just going to go in with just a little tiny highlight. Just like kind of like a thin layer of white paint, just to kind of give it the impression that there is some light shining on this guy. And you can kind of put these wherever you think is kind of smart. I don't know if that was the best place for it, but that's alright.
Looks like he has a tiny mustache.
Yeah, I know, I might go back over that because I don't know how I feel about it. Alright, maybe some on his skin. Right, yeah, I think I'm going to get rid of that one right there. I don't care for that one. And that's what I mean. So, like, you can't really make a mistake. If you do, you can always just paint over it. So don't be worried about making mistakes. Alright, and oh, I forgot the highlights on his eyebrow. So we'll get some of that. Just a thin little bit of white. I don't want too much. But this will kind of show the shape of his eyebrows and kind of like exaggerate it so that way it really stands out. And then I'm just going to sign it. And I am so thankful for all of you who are watching. If you feel free to comment or like this video. Anytime that you do that, the algorithms show Facebook and YouTube that you enjoy watching, and then they'll show more people this stuff because they believe that more people will want to see it. So anything that you can do that will help out like that is greatly appreciated. And also, let me know whatever you want to see. The more stuff you tell me that you want to see, the more I'll know what you want to see me paint. So thanks so much, guys, for watching. I'm glad that you stayed, and I hope to paint with you again soon. Bye.